Alright, today we're going to talk about fractions and decimals. We've already talked about decimals and how we add, subtract, multiply, and divide these. And we're going to move into fractions and how we add and subtract, multiply, and divide those. But today we're going to look at fractions and decimals and see that they're actually the same thing, just represented a little differently. So first, let's look at how are they the same. Well, first let's look at this 0.3, or 3/10. Now let's say we have a bar here, and it's the numbers like a number line between 0 and 1. Remember, since it's in the tenths place, we can divide that into 10 equal sections. And since that 3 is in the tenths place, we can shade in 3 of those. And that gives me 3/10. Now, fractions represent the same thing, just a little differently, and actually I think it's a little bit easier. Let's say we have the same bar, and it's between 0 and 1. That 10 tells me how many different ways I need to split it up. I need to split it up in 10 equal sections. So that bottom number always tells me in how many different sections do I need to split it up. The top number tells me how many of those sections do I need to shade. I have 3 here. So you can see these are actually the same thing. I have 3 in each of the 10 sections split up. So these two numbers are the same thing, just represented differently. So how can we compare fractions and decimals? How do we compare 63 hundredths with 4/5? Well, decimals to fractions is really easy. So if I start with a decimal and want to end as a fraction, that's not too bad. What I do is I look at the number and I take out the decimal point. So just pretend it's not there. I put that number in my numerator. So I'm left with just 63 if I pretend the decimal is not there. And then I take the place value of my last number. In this case, the 3 is in my hundredths place. And that becomes my denominator. So 100, because that's in the hundredths place, is my denominator. So I end up with 63 over 100. Going from fractions to decimals is a little bit more complicated, but we've already actually done this. Remember I said a fraction is the same thing as a division sign, so that's exactly what we do. We go 4 divided by 5. Remember, it's the top number divided by the bottom number, inside out. 4 divided by 5, just reading top to bottom. Remember, I just add that decimal, raise it up, as a 0, and 5 cannot go into 4, so I put 0 there. 5 can go into 40 8 times, and 5 times 8 is 40, which leaves me a 0, which leaves my answer to be 0.8, or 8/10. So you can see now I can compare my number either as a decimal, 63 hundredths or 8/10, or as a fraction, 63 over 100, or 4 over 5. So let's just practice some of these and then we'll be done. So let's convert these 3 decimals into fractions. Well, if I pretend my decimal's not here on this first one, I could say I have a 2 on my numerator. And this place value here is in the tenths place, so a 10 is in my denominator, 2/10, and I'm done. Next one, I have 75 hundredths. So if I pretend the decimal's not there, I have a 75. My last number is in the hundredths place. So that means 100 is in my denominator. Let's look at this one, 84 hundredths. I have 84 if my decimal's not there, so that goes in my numerator. My last place is also in the hundredths place. So that gives me 100 as my denominator. And now all my decimals are converted into fractions. Now let's go the other way around. We're just going to do 2 of these. Write each fraction as a decimal. So remember, I go 3 divided by 4, top over the bottom. Alright, so 3 divided by 4, inside out. I need to add that decimal in, raise it up, add the 0. 4 can go into 30 7 times. That gives me 28. Subtract it, gives me a 2. Add the 0, drop it. 4 can go into 20 5 times. That's equal to 20. I get a 0, so I'm done. So 0.75, or 3 over 4. Let's try 5 over 8. Remember, I go 5 divided by 8, inside out. Add that decimal, raise it up. 8 can go into 50 6 times. That's 48. Subtract, I get 2. Add a 0. Drop it. 8 can go into 20 twice. That's 16. I'm running out of room. 20 minus 16, I'm going to put that over here is 4. Add a 0. Drop it. 8 can go into 40 5 times. So I have 0.625 is equal to 5/8. So hopefully this makes sense. If not, I am available for questions, so feel free to ask when you see me next. Have a good evening.